to the question. Back to the question, because it's an important one. And it relates to what Randy's been trying to deliver to us, and that is the uncertainty in many things. Natural gas is a perfect example of something that was abundant at one time, illegal to burn to make electricity at one time, abundant again, expensive, then abundant again. All within 20 years. I'm going to say short 20 years. They are short. When you spend 20 years in the business, it's going to be short. So what will natural gas prices be? The right answer is, we don't know. How much availability will there be? We don't know. Volatile, could be high, could be low. What will the policies, climate policies be? We don't know. Directionally, we know what the pressure is, but exactly what they be, we don't know. Will carbon taxes come in now, later, high level, low level? We don't know. And when you don't know, and it's important to know, what do?
Good question.
You hire Randy. What do? It's important to know these answers, and they're unknowable. It's not a question of hire an expert or do one more computer simulation or get smarter folks. It's just not known. So we do scenario planning, we think about possibilities, and we try and find a subset of solutions that's resilient to many of the outcomes that we're looking at. You can never get it perfectly right, but try and get a bunch of solutions that would be resilient to many of the outcomes. And one of the solutions that's resilient to almost all the outcomes is conservation. Conservation is a winner under almost all scenarios. I can't think of a scenario where it isn't. Cheaper than supply, it's lower footprint for sure most of the time. It is shorter period to implement it. It's rich in job content. It empowers consumers to do what they want to do with their homes and with their businesses. So there are some solutions and some set of options that fit the sweet spot, and that's one of them. And Ontario recognized that, and it's going full tilt on this. It's not as easy as it sounds. Any of you tried to change your building code or understand the building code or know how much resistance there is to make buildings more efficient? Anybody?
Greg Allen would have an idea.
Anybody renting a place that has a broken window that the landlord wouldn't fix? I mean, there are barriers to getting an efficient household or an efficient industry to do with investments and life cycle perspectives. You know all of it. But that is a drive that is very important for Ontario. Tighter standards, tighter codes, right prices. Is there an economics degree that I'm testing it?
No.
I'm not going to engineer it. I won't accuse you. I won't take that against you. Economists talk about right. The right prices is important. So conservation is one of those that is very sweet in terms of solving many of the problems despite uncertainty. The other thing that the world has learned over the years is that when you're uncertain, don't put all your eggs in one basket. We didn't even need to hire Randy to tell us this, right? That's a grandmother's advice. Don't put all the eggs in one basket. Or the portfolio theory, or hedging your bets, or being ready to meet other conditions. So we're following that adage as well. Hedge it, get a portfolio of solutions. Most of the energy sources that you know about and heard about have a role, and the challenge that we have and the opportunity that we have is to use the sources in the niche that they're good at. Natural gas has value in certain niches and certain circumstances. Wind has certain value in certain niches and circumstances. Hydroelectric, nuclear, oil, gas. Every one of them can make a contribution. Coal became illegal, but believe it or not, it will make a contribution elsewhere in the world. And as a transition fuel, as something that can be clean, and different countries will make different choices. But if I leave you with nothing else, it's just that be open to the view that a portfolio of solutions is more likely to be more powerful than a pure play of one sort or another. Even the hydroelectric provinces like Quebec and Manitoba, it's all water power, but they use it differently. Some run all the time, some store and get depleted every 8 hours, some build up over months. So even within the Hydro-Quebec system or the Manitoba system, it's all hydroelectric, but they use it differently for different time frames. So we want to explore the strength and the diversity of solutions the complementarity of diversity of solutions, and the resiliency that comes from building a number of solutions that can better withstand surprises that will happen. People say unexpected surprises. They are expected. Surprises will happen. Changes in demand will happen. Changes in prices will happen. Technology would work better than you expected sometimes and worse than you expected more times. These things happen. That's snowstorms happen. Raccoons give their lives to short transformers and get blackouts. It happens like clockwork. So we've become accustomed to this, and our job is to put together the best portfolio that but replacing some bets. No doubt. You gotta pick a strategy and decide on the best combination for Ontario. And Ontarians have made very good choices so far. Our electricity system ranks very high in the world. We enjoy excellent service. We enjoy a very light footprint at this time. I mean, all of that is open to debate and open to discussion. None of this is absolute. But the prices are reasonable, the footprint is reasonable, the reliability is good, and the prospects for development are quite nice. And we hope to make the right choices for Ontario going forward. Question here.
Into the future, we might see certain sectors being more privatized, like a lot of the energy consumption, if I'm correct, is at least controlled by the province or by the government. So if you're looking at transportation or housing, would that be potentially more privately funded?
The sector or the consumption? Transit, what do you mean by transportation?
Like
TTC and the like?
Well, there's the TTC, there's also Toyota and cars and bikes and so on and so forth.
If your question is what influence government has on the electricity consumption?
No, whether it will be a private agency that will fund that in the future, or whether it will be more governmental.
I think it would be a partnership. Ontario Way has been a partnership all along. Government gives incentives for research and development. Private enterprise takes that and creates an idea and commercializes it. And then the consumer would partake in the choices.
Like, we have this energy efficient car, this electric car. Like, how viable would that be? And is it going to be funded by government incentive or by private or both?
Both. Initially by incentives for research and development, and later on as commercial enterprise. Until they go bankrupt and then government pays. So that's government, right? But electric vehicles and electric transit is one of those things that would be very different than we expect right now. And I don't know how it would be different. I wish I do. But it would. Anybody has used electric cars or electric transit?
Well, aren't they going to help us shape?
Actually, into the models that, I guess as a follow-on to that, into the models for your future electricity system, have you modeled in the transition to electric vehicles in the
Yes, as a scenario, because we don't know whether it would be a quarter of the fleet by 2015 or a quarter of the fleet by 2025, and how rapidly, and will they charge or not, and is it 8-hour cycle or 10-minute cycle, how big the battery capacity.
What do you expect might be, let's say, the worst case scenario?
What is worse
than a rapid transition to electric vehicles?
That's not a worst case scenario. It's a good scenario because it's good for the environment and good for.
But with the electricity system, be able to handle
the
that.
electricity system can handle a very rapid transit to electrical cars. They don't consume a huge amount of electricity. So if even a quarter of the cars on the road and trucks on the road become electric, that would put something like 10% additional demand on the electricity system, give or take.
It can also become an asset to the system and not even used.
That's correct.
Put power back.
You get into imagination that is beyond smart grids and smart interchange of energy and metering, and there's frontiers that can be quite creative in that regard. Yes.
Transit.
We'll go here. Thank you for
Is there any thoughts on the purchase of New Brunswick generation by Hydro-Quebec? And do you see any future with Hydro-Quebec in Ontario? I know the government has been considering recently selling some of the assets the government controls, which would be hydro, and is Quebec threat, an answer? Is there any planning there at all in the future?
So 3 questions. I think about Hydro-Quebec, New Brunswick, yes I do. Is there a future for Quebec and Ontario? Yes, I think.
Oh, wait, what are they?
Well, I think it's a very bold move from Hydro-Quebec. It's a very, it was a surprise to most of us in the industry, and this industry doesn't usually produce surprises. But this is a very creative move from Hydro-Quebec, very strategic move. But it generated exactly what you'd expect. People get attached to their electricity system and energy system. They feel the loss of control and the loss of environmental protection when the system is owned by somebody else. And that's what's happening in the place.
I still don't happen. Like obviously there's a back down from the whole package at the beginning, which was not on, but they are going perhaps. And now is this a leading edge? Like they're just taking a piece and they're going to get the whole thing eventually. So they're just eating in bit by bit here.
They can control the system without owning it completely. But New Brunswick needs stability and rates. They need discounts to their industrial consumers. They need investments in their infrastructure. They can't afford all of that. Hydro-Quebec will do that for them. Hydro-Quebec needs access to the U.S., which New Brunswick has. New Brunswick has a feature different than many other provinces. They are the most interconnected to other systems. Their demand is 2,000, their interconnections is 4,000. They have twice as much capacity to interconnect with others than to serve them both. They're very strategically connected to many provinces and many states, and that's what Quebec is.
So Ontario has no interest in Hydro-Quebec.
I can't answer that. I don't know that.
Well, do you see them as answering any of our problems?
I think there's a lot of synergy between Quebec and Ontario. If the commerce and politics and common sense can come into some long-term harmonization, there's a lot of fundamental synergy. And the synergy is that we can make basically load power in ways that Quebec can pump it up with their peaking power. They have reserves, they have storage, they have hydro storage. We can make baseload energy in either combined heat and power plants, wind energy, nuclear energy. That together with hydroelectric energy makes a very good combination.
Between solar, I haven't heard mention solar. Solar has a great capacity.
Solar has a great capacity, yes.
Well,
It's just
Ontario is great.
it's just a quantum difference in cost. Solar stands alone in cost from all the other options. So until solar costs come down quite a bit, it is still a niche application. It's still distinctly different than us. But we are going into solar.
Representative question with respect to solar and other alternatives. If I were to put a bunch of panels on my roof, photovoltaic, would I have access to the grid to sell the energy back? Approximately what is my payback period? And would I have guaranteed access to sunlight if some developer wanted to put a house up beside mine and shade it?
So yes, 15 years, and no. Another question? Yes, you have access to solar power to the grid. You have the right to connect. It's a matter of time and metering and installation. The payback, if anybody has done the payback, it's going to be a
It's more like 10.
So it's going to sense in that part first and then get done. Anybody done 2 years?
8 years, up to 10.
8 to 10 years. There you go. Trying to convince you that solar power is the next investment in house? No, you sell the power. You can use it when you want differently and sell the power.
You will, you have no choice. So.
Your question and then your question. Are you happy with that?
Good, thank you.
The developer is walking you off is beyond my big day. I don't know. We're in City Hall here, we can answer that.
Well, that's what I was trying to that I'm so young, I'm a mayoral candidate, and there are other mayoral candidates that want to privatize Toronto Hydro and sell to their liberal friends. What I propose doing is charging real price of electricity and forcing people to conserve. So the question is, how do you educate, let's say, renters who don't give a crap about the cost of electricity? How do you teach people about megawatts so that you don't have to